I was watching Pop Culture Detective's video on The Force Awakens titled The Stormtrooper Paradox, and it dawned on me that living canons like Star Wars might be impossible to critically analyze. This is because of an ever-expanding franchise context that can reinforce or obliterate old perspectives. For example, the Stormtrooper Paradox primarily made two arguments. First, Finn's story arc in The Force Awakens is a pretty big moment for Star Wars because it humanizes stormtroopers. Suddenly there are people under those helmets, and in particular, they're child soldiers who were stolen from their homes and indoctrinated from a young age. Finn's ability to break his programming signals a potential for redemption for other stormtroopers, so every soldier killed is a tragedy because it means that there's no longer any opportunity for salvation. I honestly don't find this to be controversial. As mentioned in the video, people's ability to change for the better and for the worse is one of the central themes of the franchise, and extending that possibility to stormtroopers feels like a natural progression of that theme. His second argument is that the theme is underexplored, and also claims that the writers involved were either ignorant of how significant the theme was, or just prioritized comedy and action instead of exploring whatever nuanced moral discussions the theme offered. And so, by continuing to treat stormtroopers as disposable minions to blow up, it creates a paradox because isn't any more likely than any other First Order stormtrooper to break away from his conditioning, so their lives shouldn't be treated so casually. I feel that while this criticism is valid up to a point, it's also a little unfair. Star Wars is more than just a single film, and furthermore, it's more than even a trilogy of trilogies. It's a living canon with books, games, comics, and TV shows that Lucasfilm and Disney have decided to make, or at least try to make, cohesive. This means that Star Wars is a fundamentally different storytelling experience than a self-contained piece of media like The Departed or The West Wing, while also setting itself apart from other multi-universe franchises like Gundam and Transformers. Now, in a previous version of the script, I went through and tried to resolve this paradox by pulling from books and TV shows, but that was a little bit unfair as well, since it's a bit unreasonable to expect someone who wants to analyze Star Wars to read every book and comic, watch every TV show and film, and play every game, just so that way they can make an argument about a single film in the franchise. On the other hand, Star Wars is more commonly talked about in the context of multiple films, which means that people default to making thematic arguments about the franchise as a whole. As a result, excluding any kind of other media is arbitrary and can lead to less complete discussion. And this is before we get into the temporal aspects of Star Wars. As I mentioned before, Star Wars is a living canon, which means that new media is being produced for the franchise and that new media can bring new insights as well as contradict old ones. This video, along with the Stormtrooper Paradox, released months before The Last Jedi hit theaters and 2 years before the release of Episode 9, which has no publicly announced title. The Last Jedi will undoubtedly change the context by which you understand The Force Awakens and the other two trilogies. Then 2 years later, Episode 9 will change that context again. This puts a sort of shelf life on any critical analysis of the films because new content will potentially obliterate certain perspectives. It's entirely possible that this video and the Stormtrooper Paradox are swept away by The Last Jedi because the analysis is no longer complete. So, where does that leave any future look into Star Wars by Punch Party? I'll try to be as complete as possible, or barring that, as complete as I feel is relevant. For example, I honestly think that any analysis into Darth Vader's character is incomplete without looking at Rogue One in the comics, but in a similar vein, I don't think you need to reference The Force Awakens to have an in-depth discussion about Captain Rex. I'll even revisit a topic from time to time if any significant updates or shifts in perspectives occur. In fact, the next video I'll be making will attempt to resolve the Stormtrooper paradox with media that I've consumed so far, and I'll revisit the paradox after each of the next 2 episodes release. What do you think? Am I being overly concerned with completeness when I should just look at the film trilogy? Is there even any value in analyzing incomplete media prior to the release of their final installment? What color does your kyber crystal emit? As always, leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.